Tomorrow is World Mental Health Day, which aims to encourage all of us to speak about our own mental health. The British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy claim 2/3 of therapists say cost of living concerns are causing a decline in people's mental health, according to research. Professor Siobhan O'Neill, the mental health champion and Professor of Mental Health Services in Northern Ireland, wrote a letter to politicians there expressing her concerns about the cost of living crisis. And Siobhan is with me now. Good evening, Siobhan.
Good evening, Stephen.
Hiya. Nice to talk to you. You say research estimates there were between, 30 to 40,000 more suicide attempts in England during the first 3 years of the last recession. That's a huge number.
Yeah, and it's actually mirrored across the Western world. So there was this pattern where if the government didn't put in strong mitigations to protect the most vulnerable, that there was an increase in suicides. And that increase seems to be in men. And the difficulty is that these are a group of people who don't traditionally access mental health services. So it's important that governments really recognise that this cost of living crisis could have that impact and an impact on mental health generally.
Why do you think, Siobhan, it's dominated, the statistic, and suicide attempts are dominated by men? What's going on there?
Well, more men than women die by suicide, but traditionally more women than men would attempt suicide and have suicidal thoughts. So it kind of balances out, the suicidal suffering goes across men and women. But we know from all the research that men might find it a bit more difficult to talk about how they feel and to disclose suicidal thoughts. And this is associated with the traditional view of masculinity and what it means to be a man. And then, of course, that idea of the man as the breadwinner. And that's tied up in the ability to support the family. So if a man loses his job, his whole self-confidence and sense of himself and his own masculinity can take a hit there. And then people panic, they engage in suicidal behaviour, they're less likely to ask for help. In fact, many people who have suicidal thoughts don't see themselves as having a mental health problem as such. So this is something we need to just get people talking about their feelings rather than even talking about their mental health, if you know what I mean, because it's all about how you feel in yourself and how you see yourself too.
What did you say in this letter, Siobhan?
In this letter, I highlighted the importance of supporting those organisations and charities who provide support to people whenever they're going through a financial crisis. So I was highlighting that was a suicide prevention action. So yes, it's about actually putting in mitigations and putting more money into people's pockets so they don't have that sense of destitution, but also helping people with debt. That's a suicide prevention issue, and making sure that mental health services and the staff who work there are equipped to direct people to sources of financial support and help to manage debt, because often people get themselves into this situation, and they think there really is no way out, and there's so many options that they're probably not even aware of. So it's about making sure that all of these services are linked together, and that if you go and talk, for example, to someone about your mental health, that they know that they can refer you then to a debt management charity as well. So it's very, very specific suicide prevention actions there, but also highlighting the impact of austerity and cost of living difficulties on mental health generally, because, mental health is a political issue, and our leaders need to know about the impact of particular policies on the population's mental health too.
Are you worried, given what we've seen? It's been a news story last week of interest rates soaring, the government's so-called mini budget. Are you worried about the impact of that mini budget, the impact of the markets, the impact of mortgage rates going up, how that will translate into suicide attempts?
Well, I think we need to be very, very measured in how we discuss this. It's just so important that help is there for people, and there are opportunities to intervene and support people. And we can make sure that the banks manage this in a way that minimises the damage to people's mental health and minimises that risk of suicide. But of course, there is that suicide risk, and this is something that there's evidence there that relates to from the last recession. So, and it happened in the Republic of Ireland as well. We had a 57% increase there in suicide as a result of austerity measures. So, the data is there, the evidence is there, but now is the time for the government to step in and make sure that we have mental health services for people and that we introduce mitigations so that we can protect people's mental health and then reduce the risk of suicide. Because we know that mental health problems currently cost the UK economy at least 117.9 billion every year, and suicides is also something that's very, very costly. Every suicide costs over £1 million directly, so these are things that are also economic issues too. And if people are mentally unwell or mentally ill, then they're not going to be able to be productive in the workplace. So by supporting people's mental health and by preventing suicide, everybody benefits and the economy also benefits too.
Siobhan, nice to talk to you tonight. Thanks very much indeed. All the best.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you. Night, night.